Hello and welcome to coverage of the 2012 Players Championship here from Seattle, Washington, in the booth. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe, and I am joined by Rashad Miller.
Yes, you are.
Players are underway. We have John Finkel versus Martin Yuza. This is round 7. This is the first round of M13 draft that we're seeing, and it looks like we're off to the races right away. On the right-hand side of your screen, we have Martin Yuza, and he's played a duty-bound dead on turn 1, one of my favorite one-drops. And it looks like Finkel has a War Falcon on turn 1, and he's just left both mana up, passing back over to Yuza, who's deciding what he wants to do with his turn 2.
Yeah, he actually, Yuza only has swamps in his hand, so he's not going to be able to play his red. Oh, wait, there's a mountain. There's that hidden mountain.
How did he do that?
It's like he's a magician.
All right, so Duty Bound Dead gets in for 1 off of the Exalted trigger, and he is going to play a Krenko's Command. Now, Krenko's Command is interesting because it is sort of like a creature in that it makes 2/1/1 tokens, but it can't get Essence Scattered, and that's definitely something that Yuza was considering and since
also soldiers.
Since Finkel had blue-white out.
Yeah, and it actually doesn't benefit as much from the Exalted triggers, you know, because you only get to attack with one of them, you get the trigger instead of, you know, a normal 2 casting cost creature, which probably is going to have at least 2 power.
That's right. So Finkel has led up with a pretty nice addition to a War Falcon. So both of the creatures on the battlefield, and they're going to grab a soldier token. So it's a soldier token and a knight. So they both enable the Falcon. So even if one were to die, the Falcon could still continue to attack.
Right, and I think Martin is considering using that Searing Spear to clear the way for his 1/1 tokens. So at least there's a trade, or if he only wants to attack with 1 goblin, you know, there's an unfavorable block with this soldier token once the actual Attendant Knight's gone.
Yeah, because the Attendant Knight right now has first strike, and it's going to halt the proceedings for Martin, and he just doesn't want that to happen. So he does go ahead and Searing Spirit.
Yep, so it attacks with 1, so there's no favorable block. It's going to be 2 damage. But
it would have been interesting if he would have attacked with both of them. He would have been offering a trade. He wouldn't mind getting that soldier off the battlefield potentially because it turns off the War Falcon.
Yeah, that's actually probably a trade that John Finkel would not have wanted to make.
Right, but the damage is the same either way. So Finkel follows up with a Griffin Protector and passes the turn back for his turn 4.
And that's going to, you know, halt all of the attacks for now from Martin Yuza. And
Martin asks how many cards Finkel has. He's got 2 left.
Well, he's going to attack with the Goblin. He's representing that he has some type of trick.
Yeah, there's a bunch of tricks he could have here.
Yeah, he's black-red. There's plenty of cards that will...
Kindled Fury, any number of burn spells.
Right, either offer, like, you know, trade for the token and a card for the Griffin Protector, or just kill the Griffin Protector right out.
He could follow up with a Crippling Blight post-combat. There's a whole lot of things he can do here.
And really, John needs to decide if 2 damage is worth, you know, risking his Griffin Protector.
I believe he has an Archaeomancer and a land in hand, so he doesn't have a whole lot coming up. And he's really trying to decide if he wants to risk losing the Griffin Protector for this 2 damage.
You know, sometimes, you know, 2 damage doesn't seem like a lot, especially when you're at 17 and you're just going to go down to 15.
Oh boy.
But, and, you know, he calls.
And he just snap call. He just blocked him. And Martin says, okay. So let's see if Martin does have a follow-up play. He does not. He was a stone bluff, and he got called on it. John Finkel, the master.
You know what, sometimes
even just for the 2 damage and a token, he still said, you know what, I don't think you got it. I'm going to call.
Sometimes, you know what? Getting those extra little bits of damage, you know, it was a great attempt by Martin Yuza.
It was. I was surprised that John blocked. Now, Martin does have a follow-up play with the Blade Tusk board, which is going to be essentially unblockable against John's deck. And right there, I think Martin probably wouldn't have been shocked if it got Divine Verdict, but it didn't.
Right. I was looking at that 4 mana, and, you know, Martin Yuza probably considered it, but maybe...
I'm sure he did. But what is he going to do, not attack?
Yeah, he really didn't have any other options. He could just sit back with his 3/2 Intimidate, which is not what that guy's meant to do.
Exactly.
He's meant to, you know, deal 3 damage a turn to, you know, decks that don't have red or artifact creatures to block it.
Right. And it's tempting to make John not use up his mana. Now, I do see that John has an Unsummon in hand. 2 lands, and I think it was an Archaeomancer, although I'm not sure. I can't get a great view on that.
Could be
oh, is it a sleep? It's
like a
sleep, not an Archaeomancer. All right. So Finkel's going to be looking to set up a situation where he can get Yuza to a low enough life total where 2 attacks will kill him, and he can go sleep, attack you again, and then you're dead. It also just changes the race math a lot, so if he wants to do it in the middle part of this game to use up his mana, he can do so.
Right. Actually, Martin Yuza is at 12, and John Finkel has 5 damage on the board right now, so he's close to actually getting to the 2 attacks being lethal.
He is.
He's just a little bit far.
I'll sleep.
So he's going to go ahead and do the sleep right now.
So he just sleeps right now. He's going to send him in. Now we know, though, that this is a key card that's going to happen here. Is that, well, actually, this is really interesting. So Martin Yuza has an Essence Drain, and he's going to use it here, and this thing's going to get unsummoned. This is going to be a big change because it's going to counter the spell effectively. There will be no life gain for Yuza.
Right, but it also changes the race because that Griffin Protector was technically representing lethal if John Finkel could draw one of his 2 Captain's Calls.
There you go. Now he has not. He's got land, and then the Griffin Protector that was returned to his hand here. So the sleep plan does not look like it's going to get all the way through for Finkel at this point, although he just dropped Martin to 5, and he's going to have 4 power in the air as he untaps, so any creature would give him lethal if Martin Yuza can't either kill him or put up something to block or kill one of his creatures.
Exactly.
So
and
he's in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, Martin Yuza drew a mountain, so right now all he has is a mountain and a Liliana Shade, and he does not have 13 points of damage.
So this is going to come right down to the wire, because what's going to happen is Yuza is going to attack with probably just everything. You know, he's going to attack with a bunch, and then
there's a 1/1 token that's going to jump in the way of the Liliana Shade.
Yeah, it's going to jump in the way of the Shade, and he's going to get in some damage on Finkel. And the key here is if he is going to be able to represent lethal the next turn, because if John bricks and draws a non-creature, you know, like let's say he just draws a land, he does not have lethal because the duty-bound dead is going to stay back, and he's only going to be able to hit him for 4 in the air. And if Yuza can represent lethal on the crackback, as we say,
right,
then he can actually be in a position to win this game. Now, if Finkel, however, draws a card like a creature, then he's good to go, and it won't be an issue. Also, Finkel has to decide if and how he wants to block. With Griffin Protector, you know, he can block the Arsonist with it.
Now, it may be actually harder for Martin Yuza to represent lethal on the next turn because he, you know, where you saw where he tapped the 4 mana and then he untapped it. So, and he did that before combat, and there isn't a lot of spells that will add to your, like, the amount that you can attack for.
Right.
In red-black, you know, where that costs 4 that you go, okay, this is going to...
I mean, like, he could Trumpet Blast.
But that, you wouldn't do that before you attacked.
It doesn't do anything before you attack.
Right.
Yeah. That would be a horrific misplay indeed.
All right, so he attacks with 3 creatures, and we have to imagine there's going to be a block. Liliana Shade is not going to get through to the John's life total.
I mean, if it does, he takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He takes 10. He goes to 3.
And that puts him in land Searing Spear, right?
Well, no, because he has to use all of his mana. Do we know if Martin's played a land this turn?
Well,
yeah, but Searing Spear costs 2.
Yeah, he hasn't played a land this turn.
Okay, so if he goes land Searing Spear, then he could get it.
Right. Martin hasn't played the land. He has 2 cards in hand. We know one of them is land. We know the other is a Liliana.
Yep, so I agree. So you put the token in front of the Shade, and you hope you draw a creature, and that Martin doesn't have any removal.
Right.
Yep.
So it looks like we are, after blockers have been declared, because Martin's considering tapping some swaps. Maybe the Liliana Shade didn't get blocked.
It might not have.
All right. It's 6.
All right, so whoa, John just takes
10.
off.
He just takes it all. He goes to 3, and he does have the land follow-up, so John, his heart had to skip a beat there. Can he draw a creature? He does.
He did draw a creature. That's going to do it.
That should be the game. He gets a trigger. He's attacking for 5, and that's it. Wow, that game got very, very, very close and ended up being a tight race.
Now, I actually heard an update from our floor reporter, but let's see if we can get that update.
You would have played it.
Yeah, so I heard that Ochoa's up a game over Shouta Yasoka.
Okay,
so,
you know, we were actually looking at
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, and he was having a lot of trouble building his deck. I thought it was 3 colors. You had to tell me that it wasn't.
Yeah, no,
he was just considering adding the 3rd color, but, you know, he was not thrilled.
He had some funny quips for us when we were over there chatting with him about his deck. He said that a few things might have to go right for him to make it work. But, you know, I mean, the guy's drafts a ton. He knows what he's doing. He's going to be able to put together a reasonable deck even out of a non-ideal pile.
So I'm actually taking a look at Mr. Finkel's sideboard options, but let me take a look at it a little bit more because he's got a couple of options.
The Magic Feather case by Incipio lets your imagination flow. Keep your iPhone 4 or iPhone 4S protected from danger while showcasing Magic's awesome imagery, including the most popular planeswalkers and other amazing art. For more information, visit wizards.com/magicmerchandise.
Now, I know earlier we had mentioned Divine Verdict.
Yes.
And we saw, you know, John Finkel had 4 mana open.
And he just passes a turn. That's very suspicious.
Yeah, usually 4 mana is when you always have something you can do. Usually, you know, you're waiting to 4 mana so you can play, like, a really substantial spell. But,
yeah, that is the fat part of your curve.
Right, and when nothing happens doing there, you suspect the white deck is going to Divine Verdict.
Oh, absolutely.
John Finkel has 2 Divine Verdicts in his sideboard.
He put them in the board.
They are in the sideboard.
I mean, it is not a particularly efficient card. I think it's, generally speaking, one of those cards that you run in your white decks because you do need an answer to something. You know, you just gotta have it.
Blade Test Boar?
Or a Liliana Shade.
Yeah, and you know what? John Finkel doesn't know how many of those are in Martin Yuza's deck. There could be multiple.
Yes, he does. He's looking at his deck list right now.
So I guess he knows exactly how many are in there.
Yeah, he's figuring it out now. So this is a bit of a unique situation just because we have a small player base here, and you know, with the covers that we're doing for this event, we want to have all this stuff public. We want the viewers at home to be with us, you know, going over stuff, getting into the details here. And what that means is that the players do have access to the other deck list.
Right. And, you know, it's good even for the players just to make it a more fair environment because a lot of these players, they're part of teams, close-knit teams. You know, we got a lot of Town of Fireball players here. There's a group of the Japanese contingency here, and then you have, say, Alexander Hain, who's basically here by himself.
Sure.
Or, you know, even Samuele Estradi.
Yep.
He's kind of just, you know, they've won Pro Tours and they're invited, but they're really not part of the team here. So, if we didn't make all this information public to everyone, then there would be a very big advantage to the teams who could just, you know, pool their knowledge. Like they get the information from 5 different decks every round, and they can just talk to each other, and eventually they know exactly what everyone's playing. So this kind of evens out the playing field, and everyone gets to have the same information as everyone else.
Yes, in the interest of fairness and integrity.
So I was actually taking a look at Martin Yuza's deck. He has a nice Exalted theme going on here, which could pose to be some issues with, you know, with a Blade Test Board. You know, if that guy keeps getting the attack over and over, and he's getting bigger and bigger, you might want to bring in these Divine Verdicts.
I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see at least one of them come in. I mean, anything that's like unblockable is something that's going to be a big issue.
I'll start. Sure.
These players are still shuffling up. Did not catch if there was some sideboard action, but we're going to get to see, especially if, you know what? If you're Martin Yuza, and I guess there really isn't any surprises. You know that, because you have the deck list, that Divine Verdict is in, you know, the 42 cards that John Finkel's drafted, and you know there wasn't in the main deck. Do you think that they're coming in from the sideboard? Possibly. Do you think that maybe John Finkel just doesn't like Divine Verdict?
I mean, I don't like Divine Verdict. I can understand why he wouldn't want it, but again, I think it's a necessary evil. Also, quick update from Twitter. A couple of people and my buddy Eric Klug reminded us he couldn't block with a soldier because then he couldn't attack with his War Falcon. That's why he didn't block.
Right.
He would have had to draw a soldier or a knight specifically to be able to kill him. So he didn't have, I mean, he really didn't have much of a choice there.
Yeah, so, yeah, I guess that soldier had a very important job.
Yeah, he had to point the Falcon in the right direction.
I guess technically, is it riding the Falcon?
I mean, I think he just guides it. Like, I don't think he's on it. Like, it's just a normal-sized Falcon.
It's like, go, Falcon.
Right, but he needs to be told where to go.
And only a soldier or a knight can do this.
Right.
Seems suspect.
No, this is totally standard. This is all right. Players are taking a look at their hands here.
We got action. Duty bound dead. Didn't we see this game before?
Yeah, this looks very, very similar to game one. Exact same openers or opening plays. We get a look at a Shimmy Inspector in Martin Yuza's hand. That card can do some work, although it's probably going to have a tough time getting through the Air Force that John can put up, including the War Falcon that he already has. It can block whenever it wants. All right, so Yuza, Sign in Bloods, targeting himself. He's going to lose 2 life and gain 2 cards.
Yeah, and this Falcon is going to be able to attack for a little while, but there's Captain's Call in John Finkel's hand, and that's going to ensure that it can attack for quite a bit once that gets online.
Absolutely. All right, so it looks like Yuza has gotten somewhat unlucky here and not hit his 3rd land drop even after playing a Sign in Blood on turn 2.
But he did get a duress, which is going to
take away the Captain's Call?
Take a creature, something that it doesn't usually do.
Well, there's also a sleep in his hand, so he's going to have to make the decision between which one he wants to take here. He cannot take any of the other cards in hand. They're all creatures or lands. So
well, I don't think sleep is a big threat here, because sleep is its most deadly when you, as a sleep casting player, has an offense that you can mount and really take advantage of it. Of those 2 turns where your opponent can't block.
That is 100% true.
Yeah, and right now sleep would just be a purely defensive spell, which it isn't very effective.
It's actually pretty poor at that. Yeah.
So he does take the Captain's Call.
He does indeed.
Yep. Good.
And Arctic Haven comes down on John's side, and that card is going to do huge. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. Wow, so Martin Yuza is just digging furiously for a land here. He'd Sign and Bloods himself again. He does actually hit that 3rd land finally.
It's a swamp, though.
It is a swamp, so I mean, he'll be happy to have hit it, but could really use a mountain at some point here.
Yeah, but really the substantial red spell in Martin's hand is, I thought he had a Blade Tusk board, but I guess it's just a Crinkle's Command, and didn't tell what the other red one went by.
Was it
fast. I thought he had a board, but he doesn't.
I think it's a Flames of the Firebrand.
Oh, he does have
which
a
would be
Flames
just insane.
That would be the card that he really wants a mountain. Martin really wants a mountain.
He would really like a mountain. That would take out both of the creatures on board. We're going to see a Silvercoat line here for John Finkel.
Yeah, John would just not have a board. I mean, now he would have a Silvercoat line.
But that's not relevant, because right now the Duty Band Deads are 2/4s on the attack.
Right.
Or one of them is. And he does draw a mountain here. Now, John does have 1 blue up. He is representing unsummoned, so Martin has to consider whether that matters to him. He does also have other plays he can make. He can play a Dusk Hunter, Blood Hunter Bat, excuse me. He can play a Shimmy Inspector. He's got options. I mean, sometimes you want to play the Spectre, pass a turn back, and then take out both of his flyers and hit him and get something out of his hand. It's a pretty big swing.
Yeah, right. But if you think about it, Martin Yuza saw John Finkel's hand 2 turns ago.
So he's got two unknowns.
Only 1, because we played a Silvercoat line.
Ah, right.
So is that 1 unknown card unsummoned? I mean, what's the chances? He knows the deck list. There's only
the chances are very low.
The chances are very low. So if Martin, 2 unsummoned, so a little bit bigger,
a little more.
Yeah, a little bit. The chances are a little more.
So it looks like he's going to lead off with an attack here. Now Finkel does have the option of double blocking and killing it, but of course he doesn't want to do that.
That's probably not the best.
Yeah, I'm just saying the option was there, but it's not favorable for John. Also, Yuza clearly was okay with that, because he didn't even bother playing the land first. So he is going to go Spectre first. I like this play. I like giving John 1 extra draw. It's a little bit risky, but it's going to pay dividends, because it basically, unless John, he's drawn the Ring of Thune, unless John can find a way to disrupt that plan, the Flames of the Firebrand is just going to wreck his board, and he's going to get an activation off the Shimmy Inspector, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and
it represents a full card.
And even though John doesn't have a lot of action in his hand, basically the Ring of Thune play is going to be null and void, because whatever gets equipped by that is probably going to be Flames down to the.
Yeah, now the ring
board
can become relevant later. It depends. Equipping the Arctic Haven with the ring doesn't do very much, so the question becomes, do you want to equip the War Falcon defensively with the ring, or the Silvercoat line, which can actually keep attacking and have vigilance and make that relevant. So
and gets bigger.
And it gets. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it can keep attacking more and more and more. So I wouldn't be shocked if he put it on the Silvercoat line post combat. He's got enough mana to do so as well. got another in his hand as
so
well.
actually, this Arctic Avon is keeping John Finkel in the game because the lifelink has been very influential. He's up to 19.
I mean, at this point, Martin's putting no pressure on him. So, like, it's
more
like the 3 power has been influential.
Well, that too, because Martin uses down to 8 and John Finkel's at 19. So
yeah. Okay.
Stumbling on that red really hurt Martin. If he were able to cast that Flames of the
Firebrand.
Yeah, Flames of the Firebrand a little bit earlier. This game
he's
would
in
be
a fine position here, though. I mean, he can just attack freely with the Spectre if he wants anyway, and just see if John feels like chunk blocking. I mean, it depends on what he's got in his hand, but
yeah. But right now, the plan is it has to be to get rid of all those flyers because there's no he doesn't really have a big defense to the flyers.
All right, he is going to go ahead and do that, though. Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely a legitimate decision that needs to be made.
Because don't forget, there's still sleep in John Finkel's hand.
That is true.
And now sleep is actually relevant.
I mean, he can't cast it.
Well, I mean, he's just one island away from casting.
Yeah, well, now it's gone, by the way. Yeah. It's exiled, and he gets to look through in case he's got another sleep in his hand in his deck, which I don't believe he does.
Yeah, I think that was it. Just one sleep.
So what Martin's doing right now is taking a look at any sideboard differences, like, you know, maybe there's a divine verdict.
There's a divine verdict.
So he did bring at least one of them in.
And in theory, if Martin uses memory is up to snuff, he can find out exactly what John Finkel's hand is, except he gets to see it also.
Yeah, he also just gets to look at it.
If he didn't get to see it, he would know it by then, but it's a Plains.
Yeah, so he's actually in a very, very good spot here with Finkle, essentially.
Sure, I've written down, I didn't check.
With them, with Finkle top decking.
So let's see what Finkel can top deck. Hopefully he puts that Plains back in his hand. I believe that plane. Okay, there we go. Yeah. One of them went back to his hand, so it wasn't the same one, but as long as one of them goes back.
Right.
And it gets a twin brother.
Attack for 3.
So he's going to attack for 3, but
Martin's life was totally.
I mean, he's going to be at 5 here, but I mean, he's facing down a blue-white deck. Like, it's not like that deck has any way to really punch through a bunch of damage out of nowhere.
Yeah, and all it really takes is just untapping and having 4 mana open to regenerate with your duty-bound debt.
Yeah, Martin also just drew a murder, so he's just in a really, really good spot. He's going to play Servant of Neferox first, attack for 5 in the air. He's going to get a chance to look at the planes that's still in John's hand, and
yeah, and actually
he's going to make 2 more guys and say go. So now he's got just chump blockers forever,
right.
And there's a attended knight.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just not going to do anything.
Yeah, John's going to play it because he doesn't want to lose it to the Spectre.
Right.
John's actually in a very bad position.
Yeah, John is in a horrific position. I mean, he's on a 2-turn clock as well. So even though he's adding a couple of creatures to the board, they're relatively meaningless.
And I mean, it's really just playing it because if he doesn't play it, it's use it or lose it to the Spectre. Speaking of which, that Spectre should be coming in fairly shortly.
5. Still a Plains. Yeah.
Still a Plains, he says.
Yeah, Mark's just going to play the Bloodhunter bats just to ensure that lethal damage is still there. Even though a top-decked Divine Verdict would change, the solo attacker. But that wasn't Divine Verdict. That wasn't.
Finkle is going to attack with all 3 because that's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to, die on the following turn, you might as well do as much damage as you can. Because maybe mistakes happen.
Maybe a mistake is made. Yeah, you never know.
Maybe your opponent overthinks it. But this may not be the tournament where your opponent is going to overthink things.
I mean, I don't think that Finkle assumes that Martin's gonna make some big mistake here. But
right. But there's definitely a non-zero chance.
Yes, exactly. And there's no downside to doing it anyway.
And Martin still has 1 exalted creature, which is all he really needs. And
so he probably just he could probably just attack with both here. Attacks with everything. So and that is the game. So Martin Yuza.
I'm just gonna run to the bathroom really quickly before the third
picks up game 2 here and equalizes.
Yeah.
All right, so Finkle's going to take a quick break here. and we're going to come back and talk to us.
Or is he going to get sandwiches? Because the sandwiches over there look really good.
Hey, welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. The sandwich man over here is Rashad Miller.
I'm actually the soup man. Get it straight.
Right, the two soup.
Yeah, but there's no soup here.
Yeah.
And you know, right before we came back to the booth, we heard from Sheldon Menery that LSV took his match 2-1 over on Turnwall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was.
Well, he said his deck was sweet, and he definitely liked it. I really like this matchup we have here. I think this showcases combat in a very good way. We've seen, I mean, the game one was actually very close. You know, Finkle was in a position where he needed to draw a creature, where he had to put himself, you know, again, the soldier needed to stay alive so that his Warfalcon could attack, which meant he was going to go within Syrian Spear range, but he just had to say, well, I'm not going to win this game otherwise, so if he's got it, he's got it.
Right. I mean, there aren't a lot of M13 draft matches that aren't going to showcase combat. And I actually like this, because Magic, you know, back in my day of Magic, if you played a creature, you were a chump. Basically, you know,
it was.
Yeah, like creatures didn't get it done. Spells were so good, but now, you know what? Magic is about creatures, about combat. And you know, it's the basis of the game, and it's easier, you know, to learn it and understand it and appreciate it if you see, you know, creatures in combat,
right,
instead of spells just being played and you know, not understanding what's happening.
In my day of Magic.
Was it last week?
Today. Like, this is what I like about it. I mean, you know, we saw some powerful spells there, but one of the great things about M13 for me is that, you know, the power level, I was actually talking to John Finkel about this, is something he pays a lot of attention to, the power level of the rares in a limited format. And sometimes they can be so powerful and limited where, you know, in constructed, they serve their role, but in limited, sometimes you're just like, wow, like, how do I beat that card?
Exactly.
But, you know, cards like Shimmy Inspector, powerful. Like, it did some good things that game, right? But it wasn't game-breaking. Like, it wasn't like, you know, Yuza's like, play this card, and Finkel's like, yeah, well, I can never beat that.
Right.
You know, he's just like, well, let's play some. You know, there's combat, there's things that are happening, it can be removed, and that's the kind of Magic I really appreciate, and I think we're going to get a really good look at that here.
Like, as you say that, I think back to M12, and, you know, cards like
what, Gorehorn Minotaurs?
Like, well, like,
speaking of 4-drops that you just cast and say, well, I can't beat that.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm thinking more like Primeval Titan.
Yeah.
And, you know, Grave Titan.
Yeah.
And something Titan.
I mean, this is a departure. You know, and I think most of the time when people think about the Titans, they think about them in the context of constructed.
Right.
But us limited players, you know, we've played against these things and limited a bunch.
It's pretty tough.
They're hard to beat.
It's pretty tough. Maybe you could beat a Sun Titan, but it's still a 6/6 with vigilance, which is the tough part.
Yeah, but like a Frost Titan or Big Gravy Train, no way.
And, you know, M13, it kind of dialed down that big bomby factor in you know, the limited format. And that's also another defining thing about limited formats. How bomby or bomb intensive is it? Like, are there cards that are just way better than other cards that you're gonna have to play against or have to deal with?
Right, and I think this match is showcasing that it's pretty evened out in M13, and it makes for a pretty dynamic limited format when it's not just play this, do I win? There's a lot of interaction.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Semi Inspector do a lot of damage to John Finkel, but it wasn't like you play that card, it just took over the game.
No, it did a lot of damage because there was 2 duty-bound deads on board.
Right.
You know, because there was a servant of Nephrox down there cheering him on.
And, it was a flyer, and, you know, Martin Yuza was able to get rid of all of John Finkel's flying blockers.
Yeah, with one card.
It was teamwork. It was teamwork that made Semi Inspector look good.
So I just heard an update from floor reporter Sheldon Menery, and it looks like Ochoa and Yasoka are evened up, one game apiece. So they're going to be going to a decider there. Again, the draft that we got a chance to see on camera come together, pick by pick, is now evened up with Ochoa.
Ooh.
So we'll see.
Maybe Ochoa's deck is showing its true
Wall of Fire. Doing a lot of work.
we don't want to give spoilers. We were trying to save that one. We're trying to save the main deck Wall of Fire for the audience. You know, come on.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I apologize.
You spoiled it all.
We have apparently spoiled the Wall of Fire. Yeah. Looks like players are resolving mulligans here down in the feature match here. Sure, we're going to be going down there shortly.
I would also assume so. Or maybe not. Usually this still works.
Are players ready? I think we can go down there.
Yeah, we got some games. We got matches
all right,
playing.
so we're going to send it back down to the feature match area for Game 3 of Finkle versus Yuza.
And we have half the start from the
actually double the start.
Well, it's double on one side and 0 on the other.
Right. So Warfalcon, and a Krankos command, so 2 creatures each. Currently, Yuzas can attack. And an Arctic Haven, although that does not enable the Warfalcons to actually be able to attack.
You know what? The next spell just might from John Finkel. He has Captain's Call.
Does he? Okay,
yeah, he
so
does
that's going to be a huge swing. Now, if there's a Flames of the Firebrand hanging around, there is 2-1, and he's going to get a straight-up 2-for-1 off of this card, and he's going to battle for 2. Yeah. Flames of the Firebrand is a pretty easy first pick on common.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to get 2-for-1s, and sometimes you even get 3-for-1s, and then you really feel good about yourself.
You do.
So here's the 4th land, and there's the Captain's Call.
And Yuza says, whew.
Because not only
he would have taken 7 in the air.
7 in the air, and then an untap and a sleep from John Finkel. He also has sleep in his hand.
Has sleep as well?
Yeah, he has sleep. He had the perfect hand to just demolish Martin Yuza.
So this is really interesting. So you say that, and looking at Yuza's hand, he has Flames of the Firebrand and Chandra's Fury. Like, he's just going to decimate his board once he hit his next land drop and do 4 to him. I think Yuza's going to be in the total driver's seat. This is a classic case where Finkel had a great strategy and a really good draw, and Yuza just has the trump cards in hand.
Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time where you look at your hand and you just see the game plan. You just see the win from the cards, as long as your opponent doesn't do anything. But, cards like Flames of the Firebrand and Chandra's Fury, they're the exact cards that are needed to just foil that plan.
Exactly. Now, this is going to be interesting because I did see that John has drawn a Ring of Thune. Okay, and the Ring of Thune, if he casts and equip it here, is going to really push Martin to want to use that Fury right away so that there's no counters going on, because right now Chandra's Fury kills all of Finkel's creatures.
I'm pretty sure that Martin Yuza wants to cast that Fury as soon as possible. I don't think he was waiting for a more value-conscious time.
Well, he could have developed his board and let it go.
Right.
You really can. I mean, it is an option, but now that, but honestly, like, the only card that he'd have to worry about here is Glorious Charge, and he didn't have it, so now he just bashes for 4, and Martin is totally in the driver's seat. He's basically 2-for-1 twice. He's used 1 card to kill 2 of John's cards 2 times in this game, and that is really, really hard to come back.
And one of them had a bonus 4 damage attached to it.
It did.
It's a Water Courser.
Yeah, Water Courser's going to hold down the ground.
But that's not going to stop the Bloodhunter bats.
It will not.
And John Finkel's down to 8, so he's run out of time, and he's working off the top of the deck. But he does have a sleep to give him 2 more turns.
Like you said, though, I agreed fully with what you said earlier, Rashad. It's just not that good as a defensive spell.
But, hey,
and we see him drop 2 Exalted Guys to make a 2-turn clock.
So this is definitely, you know what? You don't want your sleeps to do this.
Yeah.
You don't want to use your sleeps defensively. But if the option is to lose in the game,
right?
I think we take the defensive sleep
the
option.
not die thing.
Yeah, we take the not die option.
I do like that. Now, Yuza does have a Sign in Blood in hand, so he can use it to go to the face of Finkel if he can get him to 2 without just having him dead.
Exactly.
But more than likely, Yuza's going to draw a card here. He's not going to play anything. He might just Sign in Blood himself and just try to outpower him. I mean, basically all of his creatures are going to be lethal.
Yeah, you don't want to give John Finkel 2 extra cards.
Well, no, you would only do it if you were killing him with it.
Right.
Yeah, you would never just let him have 2 cards just to do 2 damage.
So I think I don't see any reason why Martin, unless Martin.
Well, the question is, do you use it on yourself? Because he's got an overwhelming board state right now, and drawing like more creatures doesn't really make it that much better. But he's got a lot of burn spells and a lot of ways he can just finish off the game right now. He does do it. He draws a 2nd Servant of Nephrox. It looks like he's content to run it out there. The only sweeper he really has to worry about costs 6 mana and needs another white. And he doesn't have it, and Finkel says, nope, don't have it this time, and he just offers the hand.
So it looks like we're going to go over to Ochoa Yasoka.
Okay, so we get to see Yasoka's play the deck that we saw him draft, which is going to be cool. And then
I want to see
the man with the mustache.
The man with the wall of fire. That's who it is. That's who it really is.
Yeah. Ochoa is sporting that hat. It's not dissimilar to the ones that you like to wear, Rashad.
Well, you know what? I usually try to save the straw hats for a more tropical environment.
Yeah, yours always have cool. The one you're wearing now is quite becoming, I have to say.
Well, this has actually become my.
Is that your
default? It's not my. It's my new default.
Okay. Yeah.
But there is a hat shop down the street.
Yeah, we walked by it and you stopped in your tracks. I was like, uh-oh, he's going back there at some point.
Yeah, I think I may need a new top 8 hat.
All right, looks like we're down at the feature match area. We can see Yasoka attacking with some creatures. I can't quite get a look at what they are yet, but we're working on that. And
looks like a prize elephant and a goblin arsonist.
Correct. And David Ochoa untaps, draws his card. I see a Silklash Spider in his hand, which is very adept at keeping the board stalled out.
It holds the ground very well, and you know it gets rid of the air.
Yep. Okay. So Yasoka's got a Bond Beetle, and then the prized elephant has the counter on it, and then also the arsonist. So there it is. Silklash Spider, go. So Silklash Spider can really stem the bleeding here.
Yeah, it's a great blocker, and that 2 power is actually really relevant because most of the time things with really high toughness have really, really low power. So if you get enough threats, you can just attack with enough creatures, and you know they block the 1, but you still get to keep all your threats. Not with a Silklash Spider. You're going to lose a threat.
In this case, though, it's just going to block an elephant, and he's going to give it trample, and he's going to Searing Spear here. So what that does is, because it has trample, he only has to do lethal damage to it.
Right.
So he actually takes 2 damage off of that, 1 from the elephant and 1 from the arsonist.
Right, because the lethal damage counts the 3 from the Searing Spear as well.
Right. Okay, so Ochoa's follow-up play is a lowly Yeva's Force Mage with no target. It just pumps itself, and it just says
we
go.
talked a little bit about that. You know, Yeva's Force Mage not being very good at holding his own in the 3 slot, especially if he doesn't. If you don't have an offense already going, it really doesn't do a lot. It's kind of just blasé.
It is very much just a middle part of your curve guy that fills the slot. It's not exciting, but it's not it's not a bad card either.
Well, I mean,
Oblivion Ring, and he's getting very aggressive here.
You know what?
Attack for 6.
We don't do quality control with our Oblivion Rings. We just get something with it. It doesn't have to be.
I mean, you can see his logic here, though. David Ochoa is sitting on 11. Ooh, and a naturalized mid-combat is going to take it out. So he does get rid of it, but he's still taking the same amount of damage.
You know, in that moment of time, it was a 4/4. It was a 4/4, and it got to use all 4 of its power. You know, it did block an arsonist, but usually the arsonist would have killed that Yeva's Force Mage, but it stayed alive because of that trigger.
Although right now Ochoa is sitting on 5 life, and he's facing down 5 power of potential trample. So he is going to need to find something to get rid of that that prized elephant, or it's just going to run over him.
I mean, David Ochoa has a lot of cards.
Oh, he's got a grip of stuff in his hand.
He has a lot of cards. A lot of them are red. I see a goblin, Mog Flunkies, which...
There's a Searing Spear, a Mog Flunkies. I see a Magma Quake. Wow.
A lot of these cards don't exactly get him out of this situation.
No, they don't. I mean, most of them, like, he's going to take some damage here. So the thing is, he has to think about if he so he can use his Force Mage plus a burn spell or these 2 creatures to take it out. I think this is the best option, although it does kind of open him up to a pump spell or to a burn spell to blow him out.
Right, but he does take the least damage if there isn't any other, effects from Yasoka.
All right, so Yasoka says, you know what, I don't want to trade you. I'm just going to play my big guy and say go. I thought he might just run him over there and clear the way, but he's decided not to.
I mean, Yasoka is in a commanding lead. 20-5 obviously doesn't always mean that you're winning, but even if you look at the board, like the board presence here, we have a 5/5 Trampler at a 4/4. There's going to be drawing cards pretty soon. Yeah,
that said, though, Ochoa is sitting on like 5 cards in hand. You got to wonder what he's got. Okay, so Yasooka has a Primal Hunt Beast, and so he's going to be able to draw a card off that, and I definitely see that he has a Volcanic Geyser and a Prey Upon. The Prey Upon can eat either, like he can eat the Force Mage and make it so the flunkies can't block.
Yep.
Now, if he's able to draw a second mountain, however.
Second mountain is definitely game, because then
Wow, and he's drawn a Roaring Primadox as well.
Yeah, second mountain means just four to the face, attack with all your creatures as long as David Ochoa doesn't have anything.
Right, which he does in this case.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, though, he's only able to Magma Quake for 4, which doesn't kill the prize elephant unless, you know, combat happens. So, like if this happens, Roaring Primadox, he says, draw a card, okay, play a land, and that is going to represent the second forest for him. And Ochoa was, I think, hoping to draw a land there, which he did not.
Yeah, he actually needs to pull the trigger on this Magma Quake now, because once Bond Beetle and Roaring Primadox happens, the size of the prize elephant is going to, you know, outweigh the range that the Magma Quake is actually going to be able to get to.
Well, it already does.
Well, right now it's. Oh, David doesn't have another land.
Right.
He was able to play a land.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He was hoping to draw a land here to be able to just completely wipe the board, but he hasn't done it. So Ochoa is very carefully trying to craft this board such that he can set up a situation where Magma Quake completely wipes the board and then he dumps down like a. Now, he's just got to play the board, though. You know, again, he's just sort of one step off each time. He does, in fact, get the double red here, and this is going to set up a pretty sweet situation for Yasoka.
It looked like for a second David Ochoa was considering Kite Sail, which would give one of his creatures flying, and then the Magma Quake would not do damage to it.
He's drawn another one, so he actually just has lethal here. So it looks like there's going to be some blocks and maybe a Searing Spear, and then Yasoka is just going to go to the face with the
and with these attacks, David Ochoa there's a lot of pressure on him to not take trample damage. So he's kind of Yasoka is kind of baiting David Ochoa to use his mana just so that you know, the coast is clear.
Sure.
Because if there's no mana open, then we know that that's Searing Spirit. I mean that the Volcanic Geyser is lethal, and there's nothing that David will be able to do.
I mean, I can't think of. I mean, what could he even do for green red? Can you think of anything? I mean, maybe you just tap out and say, "Here, you're dead." This is game 3. There's no information to be gained at this point that's relevant. I mean, I'm not saying that he shouldn't attack. I can't think of anything that actually interferes with him just winning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of green cards that could gain a life or two, and I can't think of anything other than things that cost 4 mana.
Or 5 mana.
Or 5 mana, yeah.
Bountiful Harvest, that's a sorcery anyway, yeah. So I suspect that we're going to see Ochoa take a couple of damage and then Searing Spear here.
Looks like Yasoka just passes.
They say, okay, go to damage.
All your guys are dead.
So he takes, oh, he didn't give it trample.
No, he didn't.
So he just let it sit, and Yasoka has to now, I guess he's just thinking about the cards in the set. He just says go.
He might upkeep this Volcanic Geyser.
I mean, there's no, like, right now you've got him basically tapped out. I'm not, maybe there's something that he's considering that I'm not. I mean, Yasoka's at 20. It's not like he can lose in response to this thing.
I guess the question, and I hope the life totals are correct, and David Ochoa is at 5.
That's also an option too. That just might be the case that's not true. So,
because really, all it takes is 1 life point to be off, and
I mean, I think Yasoka
totally
just wants him to tap out.
It sounds like we have a confirmation from Shouta that the life totals are correct.
Okay. He's going to play a Chronomaton and pass the turn, and I guess he just does it now.
End of turn, Volcanic Geyser you,
and he just extends the hand. So he was just, I guess, waiting to. I'm not really sure, but he had the win in hand, and he eventually cast it, and he takes down the match off the back of that.
You know what? Honestly, from a red-green deck versus another red-green deck, he could have waited as long as he wanted. He's at 20. He's at 20. He's got the Volcanic Geyser. What can he really do?
Okay.
He was doing that.
Welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. This is You Can Wait as Long as You Want. Rashad Miller over here.
Hey, I keeps it real. I keeps it real.
Okay. So we did, it's interesting. You and I were talking after watching the actual draft portion.
Okay.
With Shouta's deck, that we were wondering, base green, sure.
Yeah.
you going to be in red or white? He went for both. We saw at the end of that game he had like forest, mountain, plains, plains. So like he's found a way to make his mana work. 2 evolving wilds will help get you there. He didn't get the Farseek, but yeah, it looks like he's just gone for the biggest power level possible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that had to do with wanting to play Volcanic Geyser, which we just saw win that game.
Yep.
So, you know, most powerful card in your deck, in your card pool, you might as well try to
it's a great card. And it is a late game card, too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we send it right now? We're going to go back to the news desk. After that, we're going to come back with more coverage. But for now, the news desk.